Oh yeah, I forgot that GamingBolt did a comparison video to the Last of Us remake and the remaster, or so-called remake. Let's see. GamingBolt's annoying because they constantly ride Naughty Dog's jock, especially when it comes to The Last of Us Part 2.
After a long history of rumors and speculation, Naughty Dog finally pulled the veil off the shiny new remake of its 2013 masterpiece, The Last of Us, now rightly dubbed The Last of Us Part 1.
Alright, so this is what I'm talking about when they say rightly dubbed. This is a Neil Druckmann thing, the way he keeps insisting and doubling down on the fact that Last of Us Part 2 is canon. It's not in canon. I mean, no, and I hate to pull that card, but no real fan of The Last of Us considers The Last of Us Part 2 canon. They don't accept it as that. But these goofballs at GamingBolt are like, it's rightfully called The Last of Us Part 1 now.
Disputed masters of Sony hardware, and the developer has continually provided the best visual fidelity within the constraints of the hardware time and time again. The Last of Us was easily one of the, if not the best-looking game at its time of release, and suffice to say, the game still looks great even by modern standards. Scheduled to release sometime during September of 2022, The Last of Us Part 1 seems to be a significant upgrade over the original in terms of graphical detail.
Oh, God. Let me
modern
see.
standards. Scheduled
You already
to
know what
release
I'm laughing at
sometime
if you
during
saw my previous
September of
video.
2022, The Last of Us Part 1 seems to be
Not
a
this.
significant upgrade over the
This.
original in terms of graphical details
We'll
and
get
other
into that in a
quality of
minute.
life features at a first glance.
Granny Tess.
That said, some fans have also rightfully questioned the very existence of this remake as well, since the game is still perfectly playable, if a bit aged, thanks to the PS4 remaster that was released.
Now, see, that was the thing about The Last of Us 2, when they were promoting it, and before it came out, and you're looking at the graphics, and even though I had issues with the faces somewhat, I was like, man, this looks so much better than this. This looks almost obsolete now, so it would be cool if they went back and redid it. They did, but it's worse than I thought.
In 2014. Either way, here's a graphics comparison between the two versions of The Last of Us. Please note that this is a preliminary graphics comparison, since we don't have much to go off of when...
Yeah, GamingBolt did this before the damage control video that Naughty Dog put out after those gameplay leaks came out.
When it comes to The Last of Us
So
Part
this is
1
before all
footage.
that.
With that out of the way, let's
Grandma.
begin. Let's get the most obvious one out of the way first, and that's asset quality. The Last of Us on the PS3 used the same tricks and techniques, such as self-shadowing textures, to make its low-quality assets more pleasing to the eyes. If taken at face value, the original version still holds up today, and one can still make out most of the details within textures and assets, although it does fall short of modern graphical standards. For the remake, it seems that Naughty Dog has completely remade all of its assets from the ground up, and it looks absolutely amazing. The architecture of buildings and the makeup of environments have been changed up a bit here and there, and trees and foliage stand out more.
Big issue, and he's about to talk about that, is the aesthetic choices. So the graphics are improved, but aesthetically, I think they're for the worse in some instances. The faces, I already talked about that. But also, he's going to talk about the lighting as well.
More than the original, but for the most part, it is an identical recreation of the 2013 original with souped-up textures and materials. As many might have already noticed, the remake seems to be using a darker color palette than the original. While the colors themselves are mostly unchanged, the environment seems a lot darker and misty than the original. This is most visible in the shot where Ellie is crossing the two buildings through a wooden plank. Notice how the background in the remake is covered with a thick fog, while the original has all the buildings clearly visible. We can also see a similar effect in the university shot as well, which is much brighter in the original version. Of course, that's just an artistic choice, and not one that is indicative of any graphical upgrades or downgrades.
Yeah, it's just that when I saw this, I was like, okay, this is moodier, but I don't know if I like that better than this.
We suspect this choice is made to have a consistent visual theme and color palette across The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2. Then,
yeah, see, again, Druckmann has this, just going by what he did with The Last of Us Part 2 in particular. He didn't direct the first game, and they shot down some of his choices and ideas in the first game. But Druckmann associates misery with art. So he thinks that if something looks dark and it's heavy and he can get like a depressed reaction from you, that's more important than sort of standing up on just presenting the material in a particular way that, well, you let the player decide. Like, instead of, now of course somebody else I think directed this allegedly, but I know they took it over. I think the Days Gone crew were forced to start on this, and then at some point Naughty Dog went back and took over, and it just seems like Druckmann wanted to do things with the first game that he wasn't allowed to. Like, in some ways, The Last of Us Part 2 is like revenge for the things he didn't get to do in Part 1. So yeah,
there are the
he looks
characters,
much better here, like
which
Josh
were
Brolin.
Obviously the stars of the show. Both
here he looks like some goofy. He looks more like George Lucas. Let me see.
Consistent visual theme and color palette across The Last of Us
They're
Part
going to do
1
side by
and
side,
Part
so I
2.
should just let them
Then
do side
there
by
are
side. But here, Josh Brolin, based.
the characters, which were obviously the stars of the show.
Here, George Lucas, cocked. All right.
Both in a narrative and graphical sense. Naughty Dog pumped a huge amount of detail in
All right, so this is what I was this is what I was talking about before. Here he looks more like weathered and grizzled old man Logan. Here he's like some old basset hound. Just look at his eyes. Now it could be because of the light, but it's not just the light. It's like the facial expressions too. And the features are somewhat different. The mouth is different. And the nose is a little bit different. But then it's just his eyes. I saw like thumbnails where people have tears splashing out of his eyes here. So a lot of people see that. I know when I first saw this, I was just like, God damn, I can't take this seriously. Like, they made changes where they're emasculating him. And they're making him look weaker. Like, people said, he's supposed to look soft. He's not a serial killer. That's not what people are complaining about. Here, he's rough and grizzled, who's seen some shit. Here, he looks like he's about to cry, telling this girl, make sure every shot counts when I go down there, please.
Look of the characters, from the realistic facial hair of Joel to how the subtle movements of their bodies and even the way their eyeballs move around in cinematics. For the remake, we now see that these have been upgraded to even higher levels of fidelity. Notice how Joel's wrinkles
He looks much better here. He looks more like a Giga Chad here. Here, like I said, he just looks like some... Here he looks like he's assessing the situation. Here he looks like he's catching his friend fucking his wife. He doesn't know what to say.
are more clearly visible in the remake when...
Same thing here. Look, here he looks like I don't want to get punctured by this and I'm about to fight my way off. Here he looks like, oh, please, no. She's my wife and I love her.
Compared to the original,
Look at
the
this.
facial meshes and eyebrows all...
Look at him. He looks bigger here and everything, too. Looks like he's more swole. You know. Here he looks like, are you sure that this looks good to you? I mean, was this really everything you thought it would be? Well, here he's like, you sure this is everything you thought it was? What you think, girl? Here it's like, I don't like it. I don't like it.
react realistically as the characters speak. The character models also have been up...
I thought that he didn't have this flashlight here like that. That's one good addition, at least. Would you marry me, Ellie? You ready to do this thing, Ellie?
Dated to retain continuity with The Last of Us Part 2. And while Tess doesn't make an appearance in The Last of Us Part 2, her facial model has also been updated with what's an arguably markedly more mature and older look. This leads us...
Look at this shit. I'm sorry. Okay, let's go back to it.
Facial meshes and eyebrows all react realistically as the characters speak. The character models also have been updated to retain continuity with The Last of Us Part 2. And while Tess...
Look at this shit. Look at this. Now, there's a lot going on with this. Look at this old hag. Look at this. They go from this to this. This is a choice. This is a serious choice. Like, I mean, like, in other words, they didn't just do this by accident. They didn't just go, oh, wait, oh, yeah, she was supposed to look like this at the beginning. No. There's a couple of things or a few things going on here. Number one, defeat male gaze. Tess was never like a hottie or anything. Like, nobody ever looked at Tess and was like, oh, Tess is bad. Maybe some people did. I never did. I just thought Tess is like whatever. You know, I didn't think, even then, before this became a thing where they were making women look ugly, it just seemed to me that the reality of the Last of Us world, where they wasn't really worried about a character being cute or not, besides like Ellie being a cute little girl, but when she's clearly younger than Joel, and clearly they had something between them, but it didn't feel like it was something that I cared. Like, I wasn't invested in it. I just, it's just a part of the story. It's just funny to me that, all right, so like I said, there's a few things going on here. Number one, they want to defeat the male gaze. She looks much better here, even though I didn't think she was all that hot. That's basically what I've been trying to say all this time. I never thought she was that hot, but she looks much better here than she does here. She looks like, I'm not going to insult any real women. She looks like some character actress, and I can't. It's probably just as well that I can't say who she looks like. But, all right, so Tess was clearly younger in the original. Like I said, they're not just defeating the male gaze, or like I said, they want to defeat the male gaze. But it's not just that, of course. They're now going back and deciding that this version of Tess is too young to have been in a relationship with Joel. So they're doing this thing where, like, everybody online who complains about the type of women that Leonardo DiCaprio was always getting, like, he never dates a woman over like 25 or 26. So they're doing this thing here where it's toxic for an older man to be with a younger woman. Now, as far as I was aware, from what I could gather looking at Tess in the original, she was in the 30s. And Joel's, almost 50, if not 50 in the first game. But that's still, because they met years earlier probably, maybe he started messing with her when she was in her 20s. So they have a problem. And this is this is a Neil Druckmann thing, because he's been around sex negative Anita Sarkeesian. So now all of a sudden, it's bad that Joel was in a physical relationship with a woman who looks like this. Now he has to be in a relationship with his grandma. Look at this hag. From this to this. This is fucking ridiculous. And then also, having her look like this undercuts any sense that people would be intimidated by a younger Tess. Now, women are not really intimidating physically, but they've gave us enough of Tess's presence in the first game to let us think, okay, she's tough, she's strong, she trained with Joel, so she can handle her shit. So like when those guys attack her at the beginning of the game, we don't see it, but because they refer to it. Nobody believes that this old hag would have fought off like a bunch of dudes, or that anybody would look at this old lady and be like, watch her, she can handle the business. She's already suffering from osteoporosis or whatever it's called, old lady bones. Like, nobody's looking at her and going, yeah, I find her like intimidating because she's kind of sexual. And no, it's just something like your grandma. Nobody's gonna be scared of her. Nobody's gonna look at her like, oh, she's tough and intimidating. They just be like, get out of here, Granny. So it's just kind of embarrassing that they made this choice, that they decided it's worth making this hag, or making Tess look like a hag, just so they could be like, well, it's inappropriate for Joel to be having sex with a younger woman. Also, we need to defeat the male gaze because she's too attractive here, even though she wasn't even that attractive. But still, we gotta go hard. We gotta make sure that she's age appropriate, and that we can't. And they do it to all the women in this game. They did it too, and I never mentioned it. I think I mentioned it I can't remember. I saw something. Maybe I didn't do it on a video. Well, whatever. I forgot her name. The black lady. I can't believe I forgot her name. The black lady who, betrayed them at the end. They made her look like some damn Sojourner Truth or something in Last of Us 2. This old Negro spiritual looking woman.
Tess doesn't make an appearance in The Last of Us Part 2. Her facial model has also been updated.
This is enough for me to decide I'm not buying it even on sale. This is just insulting. This is fucking ridiculous. Like, this doesn't raise up a woman's value in society. This is to make people look and go, wow, an old lady could be a badass. They just look at it and go, this is fucking stupid. You didn't create an old lady who was a badass. You just took a younger woman and made her look old and said, well, this is actually more appropriate. I'm embarrassed about what we did earlier.
With what's an arguably markedly more mature and older look, this leads us nicely to the character animation.
Fuck? She already looked mature. She looked like she could be a badass. She, like I said, I didn't find her like sexually attractive, not because she was a badass or anything. I just didn't think that she was hot. I thought, okay, this is the choice that they're making to show you, like I said, in this environment, she's not going to be some little nymphette. She's a tough chick, and people take her seriously. Here, this is more like mama. She's like going around beating people up. If any kind of intimidation factor she had was basically, I call my boys on you. But nobody's like running from her and shit like that. They wouldn't even jump her old hag ass.
Side of things. Facial animations, as mentioned before, have seen a bump in both quality and complexity. Although it's not confirmed whether Naughty Dog actually went ahead and redid all the motion capture this time around. While it's speculation on our end, it doesn't seem that any new motion capture work has been done for the remake. Instead, it seems they went ahead and redid all the motion capture this time around. While it's speculation on our end, it doesn't seem that
I don't like how he looks. He looks basically the same, but it's
any
still
new
something
motion
off
capture
about
work
him.
has been done.
Now, of course, he did get impaled by a rebar, but still, this is more low T than it should be.
For the remake. Instead, it seems that Naughty Dog was able to extract more details while rigging the previously recorded captures
she
to
looked
the
like
engine,
an old hag.
I'm
obsessed with
for the
Tess
remake.
in
Instead,
this.
it seems that Naughty Dog was able to extract more details while rigging the previously.
Look at her. She looked like she had some kind of her arthritis acted up the way her movements looks. And now I can't find it. Where the hell is it? Oh, what is her name? Oh, Marlene. God damn it.
Captures to the engine, thanks
She
to
looked worse
both
in the
its
second
updated
game.
in-house engine as well as its exponentially more powerful target hardware. As a result, while the facial animations show more depth than the original, the cinematics and body movements seem to be a one-to-one replica of the original.
Replica? It's not a replica. They just reskinned it. That's all. This is just a reskin.
Cinematics and body movements seem to be a one-to-one replica of the original.
You know, I had a daughter named Sarah once, right?
And play at the same speed as the original, as can
Oh, God. I just
be deduced by playing both versions of these cinematics side to side. What we have discussed so far leads
is... All right, yeah, you get my point.
us to believe that The Last of Us Part 1 is actually using the version of the Naughty Dog engine that we saw in The Last of Us Part 2.
Like, they really went out of their way. Look at it. This is just a different woman. It's like, it's not even like they cast the same woman. Like if this was a movie and they did a remake and they just cast, like it was like 10 or 12 years later, and they just recast the same woman from the original to play that character again. Like she's lost her lips. She got a little bit of lips here, chin, and like she's been doing some mewing. She just looks like some old hag whose denture's about to fall out. Here she looks like, she kind of looks like she's about to cry. But here she looks like she's about to sob.
Not a surprising revelation, I know, but it is rather interesting when you think about it. You can find any more notable upgrades in texture quality, signs of ray tracing, or anything that could differentiate it from the version Naughty Dog used in its latest. Hell, even the post-processing pipeline looks identical, with the developer's signature implementation of TAA without supersampling to retain a sharp image seemingly present in the remake as well. It needs to be noted that this is all judgment that we are drawing from the limited information we have at the moment, so it's advisable to take it all with a pinch of salt. But even if that turns out to be the case, it's not that bad, since The Last of Us 2 is still a looker even 2 years later.
I hate how these idiots could find you out there. You're supposed to be on fire. What you running over here for? Get away
an
from me.
improvement over its original, but what we've seen so far has us believe that it is essentially the first game remade in The Last of Us Part 2's engine. Developer Naughty Dog has promised that it will be making use of PS5 specific features, like the DualSense for this remake.
None of that's worth
but we haven't seen it in action. Will it have the motion matching tech that enabled fluid animations that all blended into one another, which we saw in The Last of Us Part 2?
Well, so that's the thing. They have it if you're trying to sneak up behind somebody, but if you're fighting them, no. So no, the gameplay doesn't change. Like the fighting, the action of the combat system doesn't change.
What exactly will the new accessibility features be?
Now the thing about the accessibility features, and I tried to skirt around this in my previous video, but not many people are going to be using that. Like, how many colorblind people or blind people are going to be actually playing this damn game?
How will the game be updated to foreshadow the events of the sequel? These are all...
Now, that's something that I wouldn't put it past these assholes to put some kind of stupid Easter egg shit in there at the very least. I feel like one of the reasons why I was against the idea of them remaking this game, if I thought they were actually remaking it, was changing things to really make Joel seem like a bad person. Which, of course, he was a bad person, quote unquote bad, but everybody knows where he was coming from. And when it comes to protecting this goddess, then, of course, that's his daughter. She's so important. Like, fuck humanity. She's more important than that. So, of course, he's going to do what he does. But they also, I felt like if they are going to make any changes, because they know they would have to, they would also have to change the meaning of the ending in her okay. Now, Druckmann tried to lie and say, oh, the reason why she said okay is that she's realized that he took away her consent, which is fucking bullshit. She's not old enough to consent to sex, let alone consent to saving herself for humanity, whatever the fuck that means. And they didn't even try when they were supposed to, okay, she's the key to producing a vaccine. They didn't do any kind of tests on her at all. As soon as she got there, they knocked him upside the head, threw her on a goddamn operating table, and tried to get to work immediately. This fucking scientist who cares about these fucking zebras, he's too fucking stupid to go, let's test her blood. Let's see if there are different things that we can do to see, like you would think, like an entire season of a TV show. This is a TV show. The entire season of a TV show would them just be getting to poke and prod at her to figure out what they're gonna do. Like this, like it's too important to just cut her head open and then just spill this shit all over the floor and be like, well, that was our last chance. Fucking dumb. They could have done all kinds of stuff. They could have took her blood, tested it on other people. They could have done all kinds of shit first. So anyway, but for the purposes of the first game, them doing that, of course, works because you want to go save Ellie. But when it comes to a story where we're now doing the second game and saying Joel must be punished, we now then have to go back and consider that, wait a minute, it's not a guarantee that just because she had the cordyceps in her brain that she actually, there would be enough, material to produce a cure for the world. So it's just dumb shit like that. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I'm just rambling.
Questions that are burning in our minds, and I think these are the questions that Naughty Dog should focus on with the remake. As for the technical side of things, Naughty Dog may not have innovated upon its in-house engine substantially since its 2020 release, but it still leaps and bounds ahead of many modern games, and perfectly serviceable for an early 9th-gen release. Whether these improvements are worth the $70 price tag is another question for another day.
They're not
That's
going
all
to.
for now.
They're not going to address
if you
that
enjoy
question.
what you saw, please hit the
No, I
like button.
didn't. They're not going to address that question. I don't know. I guess they might do some lip service about. Fans are concerned that they should pay $70 for the new remake of The Last of Us, but The Last of Us 2 was such an amazing game that everybody loved, they probably should just pay the $70. That's it. I just want to look at the side-by-side, mainly for that old hag, Tess. Thanks for watching, and take care.